Hello everyone, this is your captain speaking. Prepare for takeoff as we head to Madrid for the EUROCAE Symposium 2025, where aviation experts from across the globe come together to chart new routes for the future of aviation. Since 1963, EUROCAE has been at the forefront of innovation, bringing together today over 5,000 experts to make aviation safer, more efficient and more sustainable. With 50 active working groups, always cruising at high altitude, we're creating new standards and solutions to keep aviation on course. With 500 members from 45 different countries on board and over 300 standards published, we're building the future of aviation. Now, we've arrived at our today's destination, Madrid, where we'll continue to soar towards new horizons together. So, fasten your seatbelt, because the future of aviation is about to take off, and we're all part of the flight crew. Welcome aboard the EUROCAE Symposium 2025.
And welcome on board indeed. Welcome to the 2025 EUROCAE Symposium. It's a pleasure to see so many of you here today. Close to 150 here in the room, and we will put the sessions afterwards on YouTube, so even more will see what we will discuss here over these 2 days. And I'm really looking forward to these 2 days. We have 2 days packed with 6 engaging panels, 8 flash talks delivering quick insights on what's happening today in aviation in Europe and globally. This morning we'll start off with a special focus on SESAR with the ATM master plan, and then dive into one of the key topics there, which is TBO, trajectory-based operations. In the afternoon we'll be looking a little bit more technically, starting off with a flash talk from our colleagues in the military, from NATO, and then turn towards the exciting topic of artificial intelligence, before looking at LDAX and closing the day with a session on ATM ground equipment and the new framework there. Tomorrow we'll get started with a flash talk and speech, keynote speech by the European Commission, DG Move, before we talk with IATA a little bit on the different priorities that the airlines have and how we can help those. Then we'll look at another key stakeholder in the environment, the airports, and then look also at the space policy. And then after lunch, we'll take a little bit of a different spin, where we'll start looking at sustainability sandboxes as a test arena on the international side. And in our final session, we'll be looking a little bit the other way around on the effects of climate change on aviation. So I'm really looking to 2 days packed with exciting sessions, exciting discussions, all of which we can continue during our networking breaks and the lunches, which we have made especially long, so we can all enjoy the networking there and the good Spanish food. And of course, we'll have our gala dinner and awards night tonight, which is always a special moment during the year to recognize those that go the extra mile in developing and delivering the standards in our EUROCAE working groups. I would like to express my gratitude before starting off with the program, express my gratitude to our Spanish colleagues, AENA, ENAIRE and INDRA, especially for the local support that they've given us in the preparation of the symposium. And of course our sponsors, the gold sponsors Airbus, INDRA and ENAIRE, the silver sponsor Collins, the bronze sponsors with Frequentis, Ansen, Skyguide and Honeywell, and our partner, the European Commission. A little bit of housekeeping before we get started. You have all received your goodie bags. Please enjoy, play with the goodies that you have. We have Slido, which will be using the same Slido codes for all of the sessions, so make sure that you scan it now and keep that open on your phones as we go along. There's a special Wi-Fi today for which you have the code here, EUROCAE Symposium password standard. And of course, very important nowadays, social media. Publish, share your experience, follow us, LinkedIn, X, and Blue Sky, which is new this year. So with the hashtag EUROCAE Symposium on the top. Now, without further ado, I would like to introduce our president, Guillaume Roger, for some welcoming words. Thank you and enjoy.
Thank you, Anna. As EUROCAE president, it is my honor to welcome you to our symposium. This afternoon, we will also have a General Assembly. It's a very special moment in the year and a very important moment for EUROCAE. As during this assembly, you will have the president's reports and news about the association, a view on our council strategy, the financial result, and we will be electing the new council members. Tomorrow, we will hold the first meeting of the newly elected council. Back to the event. It's a real pleasure to be here in Madrid. Since the beginning of EUROCAE, it's a tradition for the symposium to be hosted in different cities every year. When selecting the city, the Council is mindful of the host country's involvement in aviation in general and in EUROCAE in particular. For Spain, this means out of 457 members, 29 are from Spain, and some key members have long-standing history with us. ENAIRE is celebrating 10 years with EUROCAE, and as AENA, they were members since 1999, 26 years. INDRA is celebrating 25 years as EUROCAE member. We also see some new members joining more recently, showing Spain is a vibrant country for aviation, like Anzen, and many more. Since 1963, Spain has been hosting the symposium only twice, so it's the third time this year, 1996 in Madrid, 2002 in Barcelona, and today in Madrid. 2 years ago, we celebrated our 60th anniversary with a big show in Le Bourget, and last year we went back to the place of our creation in Lucerne, Switzerland. So back to 2024, last year was a very important year for EUROCAE. During the GA, I will have the opportunity to make more details about that, but just to give you some important things. Members now span over 45 countries, and we are close to 500 members now. It should be compared to 2016, when we only have around 200 members. 50 active working groups, numbers of publications going up every year. Over 300 standards published since 1919, 80% are referenced by EASA, ICAO, or another regulatory body. Link to EASA is especially crucial, and we are very close to them. EASA is part of the TAC, the Technical Advisory Committee, and the Council. Example for collaboration also in the establishment of the Working Group 130 about ATM ANS conformity assessment. The aim of this important working group is to identify, review existing standards, and facilitate the development of updated new standards in support of the European ATM ANS conformity assessment framework, with the aim of providing a comprehensive framework for the certification of relevant equipment within ambitious timeframes. The co-leadership of this working group by EASA and industry, along with the record participation, demonstrates the confidence and stakeholders' buy-in for this important activity. Another highlight is the activities of the Working Group 114 about artificial intelligence. The first standards for AI components integrated in aviation systems should be released for open consultation later this year. The group also released a video series, which you can view on YouTube channel. Another 2 new working groups kicking off in June is the Working Group 132, automatic aircraft inspection using small drones, an interesting use case for drones, and Working Group 133, GNSS multi-elements antenna, timely launch of this new activity looking at jamming, spoofing topics, which is in the media all the time. New workspace, major milestone for all of us, but mainly to give better service for the working group in the day-to-day development of the standards and the members. That was just some highlights examples of activity we had last year when we met. I would like to express a big thanks to the members, to the experts, to the Council and the TAC for their work and dedication. And we will hear about all these topics in the coming 2 days. And the team of EUROCAE, as well as many Council members and TAC members, are in the room. So feel free to discuss with us and join and enjoy the networking session during the breaks. And that's all for me. And I will give back the floor to Anna. Thank you very much, Anna.
Thank you very much, Guillaume, for those opening words. I would now like to welcome Montserrat Mestres from AENA, the Executive Director of the Spanish Aviation Safety and Security Agency, AESA, to come and join me here on the stage and deliver the opening remarks from the host country. Montserrat.
Thank you, Anna. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, colleagues, and friends. It is a great honor for me to welcome you all to Madrid on behalf of the Spanish Aviation Safety and Security Agency, AESA. I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to EUROCAE and its Director General, Ms. Ana von Grote, for choosing Spain to host this important event. It has been nearly 3 decades since the last EUROCAE Symposium took place in our country. The return of this prestigious forum to Madrid is not only a source of pride for us, but a recognition of Spain's enduring commitment to aviation, safety, innovation, and international collaboration. Allow me to begin by giving the warmest of welcomes to all of you who have traveled from around the world to join us here today, to the regulators, manufacturers, service providers, experts, and visionaries shaping the future of global aviation. Madrid is honored to host you. EUROCAE plays a vital role in our sector. Since its foundation in 1963, it has been at the forefront of developing aviation standards that are recognized across the world. With more than 500 members from over 50 countries, it brings together the voices and expertise of the entire aviation ecosystem. The standards EUROCAE produces not only support safety, sustainability and efficiency, but also accelerate innovation and ensure a coherent, harmonized approach across Europe. Moreover, collaboration with global partners ensures that Europe remains fully aligned with global trends, maintaining competitiveness while shaping the international regulatory landscape. These partnerships allow us to avoid duplication, accelerate innovation, and ensure that European industry continues to lead in both thought and practice. From communication, navigation, and surveillance systems to artificial intelligence, from sustainable aviation to cybersecurity, EUROCAE provides the technical backbone that enables the aviation industry to move forward safely and effectively. Industry standards have proven to be an essential part of the regulatory architecture in Europe. They facilitate compliance, provide legal certainty, and reduce unnecessary burden, particularly in complex operational environments. For authorities like AESA, the existence of a robust industry-driven standards help us focus on risk-based oversight and performance rather than prescriptive rulemaking. Recent reflections at the European level have highlighted a renewed strategic direction to actively embrace the use of industry standards in all operational domains, not only for technical certification, but also for organizational and monitoring processes, cybersecurity, and performance audits. This approach helps streamline the regulatory framework and supports innovation through faster, more flexible standard setting. This is particularly important in emerging areas like artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, and advanced air mobility, where agility and cooperation between regulators and industry are essential. The way forward requires a strong coordination with standardization bodies from the very beginning of regulatory planning, ensuring transparency, inclusive stakeholders' involvement, and alignment with international partners. To this end, EUROCAE's collaborative working groups allow all stakeholders from operators and production organizations to national authorities and regulators to work side by side from the very beginning of the standards of development. At AESA, we actively promote the integration of EUROCAE standards in our oversight activities. Let me highlight a few concrete examples, while acknowledging that these are only part of a broader and ongoing collaboration across different domains. First, in the domain of air navigation services and air traffic management, EUROCAE is a recognized reference. In a landscape marked by increasing complexity and performance-based regulation, harmonized standards ensure consistency, interoperability, and operational efficiency. For example, EUROCAE document ED 153, used for software assurance in ATM NIS systems, is already considered by regulators, including AESA, as a valid means of compliance. It serves as a critical tool in our oversight function and promotes a common understanding among industry, NASPs, and authorities. Second, in the field of cybersecurity, EUROCAE Working Group 72 has delivered several fundamental documents, notably ED 202A to AD 205A, which support the implementation of Part E of the Regulation on Information Security Risk Management. This is an area where AESA is progressively implementing oversight in all relevant domains, and having harmonized and technical sound standards is key to our success. Third, in the area of aircraft certification and continuing airworthiness, EUROCAE develops high-quality technical reference documents that include test methodologies, minimum performance requirements, and validation criteria for aeronautical system and equipment. These documents are widely recognized by civil aviation authorities such as EASA, the FAA, and others as acceptable means to demonstrate compliance with applicable regulatory requirements. AESA draws on these standards through our partnership agreement with EASA, particularly in processes involving design changes, supplemental type certification approvals, and validation of third-country certifications, including those from the FAA. These standards not only support mutual recognition, but also help streamline the certification process while upholding the highest levels of safety and regulatory integrity. Looking ahead, future developments in your space services will benefit greatly from such harmonization. Without common standards, we risk fragmentation. With them, we build the trust and consistency needed for rapid and safe implementation across Europe. As aviation continues to evolve, so must our approaches, especially as we face new and complex challenges such as the unstoppable growth of air traffic, the emergence of AI-driven systems, the integration of drones and advanced air mobility into our skies, the growing threat of cyber attacks, and the urgent need to decarbonize aviation, among others. In all these areas, EUROCAE's role as a neutral, technically rigorous and inclusively standards body will be more critical than ever, and so will our joint commitment as regulators, manufacturers, and operators to adopt and contribute to these standards. From AESA, we reaffirm our support to the standardization community and to the efforts led by EUROCAE. We also encourage more synergies between national authorities, industry, and regulators to ensure that standards not only reflect best practices, but also drive our shared objectives forward. Finally, we must acknowledge the broader geopolitical context. We live in a time of uncertainty, political, economic, and technological. It is precisely in such times that unity and coordination become even more essential. Europe must continue to move forward as one, promoting not only shared values, but shared development, shared knowledge, and shared opportunities across all member states. By investing in regional expertise and innovation, and by supporting frameworks like EUROCAE that embody cooperation, we reinforce the resilience of our aviation system and its ability to adapt to whatever challenges lie ahead. To conclude, I would like to thank EUROCAE once again for its leading role in coordinating European and global aviation standardization activities and in developing and maintaining high-quality standards, and for bringing us together today. This symposium is a unique opportunity to connect, reflect, and shape the aviation system of tomorrow. Let me also extend our appreciation to all the sponsors, partners, and contributors that have made this event possible. Spain is proud to stand with you in building a safer, smarter, and more sustainable aviation system. We hope you enjoy your time here, both professionally and personally. I encourage you all to make the most of the sessions, actively engage in discussions, and collaborate with your peers. Together, we can drive progress in aviation standards and contribute to a brighter future for our industry. May this symposium be a fruitful and inspiring occasion for all of us. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias. Muchas gracias, Montserrat, for these very, very nice, inspiring words about EUROCAE, about the importance of standardization and the importance really of collaboration between the standardization and the regulatory bodies. And we'll hear a lot of the examples later today and tomorrow in the sessions. We'll touch on those examples again, and I think this is really important. So thank you again very much for these words and for welcoming us to Madrid. I'm sure we will all enjoy very much the city and the symposium. I would now like to invite Enrique to join me on stage, the General Director of ENAIRE, to give us some welcoming words from his perspective. Welcome, Enrique.
Thank you, Anna. I don't know if it's working. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished President of EUROCAE, Guillaume, I can see you, and Director General of EUROCAE, Anna Bongrote, and esteemed colleagues, panelists, technical experts, and aviation partners. I would start my intervention thanking EUROCAE for the invitation to ENAIRE to open this 2025 EUROCAE Symposium, and along with Spanish National Supervisory Authority, AESA. It's a great privilege for me to address you today at this relevant symposium. Let me also begin by expressing my deepest appreciation to EUROCAE for its leadership in developing global aviation standards and for offering us this unique opportunity together, share and advance together. We are also especially pleased that this year EUROCAE Symposium, as the President said before, is taking place again in Madrid after so many years. Thank you for choosing our city as the host for this important event in this emblematic office building designed by the architect Eleuterio Población in the heart of Madrid city in the barrio de Salamanca. And those who have traveled to here with us, welcome to and thank you for your commitment to this target, to the shared mission. Before getting into the subject, let me say a few words about ENAIRE, about us. As you know, ENAIRE is a Spanish business entity, is belonging to the Spanish Ministry of Transport and Mobility. We provide en route and approach air traffic control services in Spain, and also air traffic control in towers in 21 airports, including the top 5, Madrid, Barcelona, Palma de Mallorca, Málaga, and Gran Canaria in Spain, with the top five in traffic. We also provide all the CNS, communication, navigation, and surveillance systems, plus ATM systems, not only for us, but also for the entire AENA network for the airports in all Spain, in addition with our own systems for the CNS for en route and approach. We have a staff about 4,200 people, half of them more or less controllers, half of them non-controllers, engineering plus administrative plus support. And we are in traffic in terms of movements. We are the fourth in Europe, air navigation service providers in terms of traffic. And our figures of traffic last year surround 2.4, more or less, traffic movements per year. New records for Spain, more than 71 times in summer last year, 21 times record in Spain in traffic, representing more or less 22% of the traffic in all Europe. In terms of investment in CapEx, we spend around 160 million euros per year in order to maintain, update, and modernize all the Spanish air navigation system, incorporating new technologies to increase our efficiency and improve service quality and efficiency while updating and improving existing technologies. In 2024, last year, for instance, we reinforced also our system, our air traffic control system, SACTA, by completing with our high-tech partners the definition of the new version of ITEX that is going to be deployed in our centers, in route and TMA facilities. And we are also deeply engaged in research, innovation, together with the Digital Transformation Initiative at the European level, in the frame of the SESAR 3 program and in context of EUROCAE, which we are very proud members since 2001. And we are actively participating in working groups and contributing to the development of key international standards. Our long-standing involvement reflects our full commitment to collaboration, enhancing safety, and promoting together technological excellence in aviation. We aim to lead and contribute actively to the evolution of air traffic management, embracing new technologies, and at the same time supporting the integration of emerging new airspace users like drones and urban air mobility in the future. To this later regard, in the field of this new entrance domain, ENAIRE is fully engaged and committed with the development and deployment of EUROSpace in Spain, and aiming to improve ATC system efficiency and enter in the provision of the new services like EUROSpace. I take this opportunity of this symposium forum to talk about three relevant and challenging advanced strategic initiatives from ENAIRE where European industry needs to play a fundamental role and support from EUROCAE. This will directly benefit the users of the aviation system and will save the new generation of ATM system. The development and implementation in our case, by our high-tech alliance of the new service delivery model based on an open system architecture, service-oriented and cloud-based. The design and the deployment by Startical, that is a joint venture of ENAIRE and INDRA, of a constellation of more than 200 LEO satellites designed for ATM to provide satellite-based VHF communications, voice and data, and ADS-B surveillance system services with global coverage. And finally, the development of ENAIRE hub system and the certification of ENAIRE as a common information service provider and EUROSpace service provider for the deployment of EUROSpace services in Spain. Starting with the open digital architecture and trajectory-based operations in ITEC, as I said before, one of our most strategic programs is ITEC, developed by INDRA jointly with relevant European NSPs partners. Until now, the ATM service delivery model has typically evolved every 10 to 20 years through major upgrades to the core ATM system to facilitate deeper and faster changes and cloud-based service-oriented architecture for all operational environments that has already gained the support of NSPs, including ENAIRE and manufacturers, as reflected by the signing of a joint statement last June 2024. ITEC will support the evolution toward this new service delivery model promulgated by the last version of the ATM master plan. This new service delivery model will enhance flexibility, scalability, resilience, and innovation and speed through its service-oriented design with open and standard interfaces, enabling faster innovation with a quicker deployment of new functionalities, a higher degree of automation, and seamless integration of the new services. It's a building block of the European digital sky. And of course, its success depends on robust and harmonized technical standards, an area where EUROCAE contribution will be essential. This article, that is, as I said before, an European initiative for space-based ATM. This is an initiative created by ENAIRE and INDRA to deploy the first low LEO satellite constellation providing global surveillance voice, VHF, that is very important also in remote and continental areas, and data link communication for ATM. By integrating the DSV surveillance and space-based VHF communication and data, statistical solutions will allow remote airspace, such as oceanic regions, to be managed with the same efficiency as continental space. This could enable a reduction in current separation without compromising safety. This article has taken a big step towards achieving this goal. In March, a few weeks ago, we launched the first demonstrator satellite with SpaceX, and the second one is scheduled for June or July 2025. Both demonstrators aim to prove the technological feasibility of the solution by providing real-time communication between aircraft and air traffic control centers, as well as precise positioning data transmitted from space. This mission counts on the support of Europe. Both demonstrators are part of the ECOS Digital Sky Demonstrator project, co-founded by the European Union through the Connecting Europe facility managed by CINEA, with the support from SESAR and Undertaking. This article will also allow us to bring better ATM services to oceanic and remote areas, improving safety and continuity of service worldwide. But innovation also brings complexity, from operational validation to integration with terrestrial systems, from safety assurance to regulatory acceptance. This article has actively participated in regional and international discussion forums in the International Telecommunication Union, I2, and the International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO, providing technical studies to working groups to support the standardization and regulation of satellite-based aeronautical services. Also, we rely on EUROCAE's support, as EUROCAE working groups provide a forum where this becomes possible. This article is participating also in the joint EUROCAE RTCA working groups related to the air-ground data link to ensure that the space-based VHF concept is taken into account in the technical documents developed by both organizations. And US-based, that is the path toward advanced mobility, air mobility. Our third strategic challenge is the deployment of new entrants, the deployment of US-based services, enabling the safe integration of drones and advanced air mobility in lower space. The Spanish Civil Aviation Authority, in collaboration with the National Supervisory Authority, AESA, ENAIRE, and the Ministry of Defense, has published in 2022 the Spanish National Action Plan for the Deployment of US-based, PANDU, that is the acronym. These plans define the lines of action for the implementation of US-based systems and services by the different stakeholders in a coordinated and efficient manner in line with the European Union regulatory framework. And last year, as part of this plan, ENAIRE was designated in Spain as the single common information service provider in Spain. So we are now preparing for the certification process in the coming months as common information service provider and US-based service provider with AESA. In addition, from ENAIRE, we actively participated in validation process within the framework of the SESAR 3 program, such as the Welcome project for the deployment of US-based, SPATIO project for the US-based separation management of the EUAGRI project, which aims to develop an integrated risk model for unmanned aircraft systems operations. Through these projects, we are integrating real use cases and testing interoperability between platform and users. But we are also facing regulatory and technical challenges, particularly in terms of certification, data exchange, and dynamic airspace management. Some contributions from the above projects fit in EUROCAE working groups 105 and managed aircraft systems. Once again, EUROCAE is playing a key role in creating a common technical language to enable this new service to be deployed. The work of its working groups in coordination with the EASA and with our national regulators is helping us to move and to have a vision to reality. Examples of this is the recent publication of the ED 318 standard for the publication of the US geographical zones in the current development, which is being carried out by EUROCAE for the development of the new standards for EU space, such as the future ED 339 to enable the indirect exchange of network ID data between USSSP, in which ENAIRE has a very active role. So what do these three initiatives, ITEC, Startical, and U-Space, in common? They are European initiatives, built by European industry, aligned with our European values. They represent our continent's capacity to lead innovation in aviation. But leadership requires unity, and standards are there in order to bind our efforts together. EUROCAE offers that neutral, technical, and inclusive environment where stakeholders across the aviation ecosystem can co-create the solutions we all need. As technology evolves in an unprecedented pace, we must ensure that standardization is not a bottleneck, but is a flexible enabler that can adapt new technologies as artificial intelligence, forward-looking and globally recognized. And finally, in conclusion, I would like to reaffirm our ENAIRE full commitment to safety, innovation, and international collaboration. We will continue to work hand in hand with EUROCAE and all of our partners to develop solutions that are not only technical sound, but to create tangible values for users and support the sustainable growth of aviation. Thanking again, EUROCAE, let me also extend our appreciation to all the sponsors, partners, and contributors that have made this event possible. And all of you, welcome to Madrid. We hope you enjoy your time, both professionally and personally speaking. I invite all of you to make the most of this symposium. Let's connect, exchange, and continue shaping the aviation system of tomorrow together. Let me end by wishing you all a pleasant stay in our city, in Madrid, in your house, in your home. And thanks again, EUROCAE, for your kind invitation and choosing this city for this important event. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Enrique, for those very impressive figures and examples of innovation that you are putting into reality really here in Spain, and also for reminding us of the European nature and the European context that we're all working in. I think this is the perfect transition to our next speaker, who's, you couldn't have coordinated better, in fact. So Andreas Boschen, who's the Executive Director of the SESAR Joint Undertaking, who will give us a little bit of flash talk on the new master plan and how we work together between the SJU and EUROCAE. Very, very happy to have you here, Andreas. The floor is yours.
Good morning, buenos dias, and muchas gracias, Enrique, for the nice introduction to many of the topics I wanted to raise with you. That's much appreciated. It's a flash talk, so I have only 15 minutes. It doesn't mean I should talk quick. It rather means I should focus on the priorities and get my message through, which I will try to do. So my first message is indeed good relations between EUROCAE and the SESAR Joint Undertaking. And it's really a pleasure that finally I made it to this symposium to show up at a EUROCAE event, while we have Anna and the team very often with us in our SESAR governance. I try to push the button, but it doesn't make a lot of effect. So there are some slides which show up. There we are. Cool. Okay, next slide, please. We, as a SESAR joint undertaking, are managing the technological pillar of the Single European Sky, and we are having an integrated innovation pipeline which brings projects ready for deployment. And you see some figures here, 78 projects in operation, and Enrique, indeed, ECOS is one of them. We have our first SESAR satellite in the air and hoping in June to get the second one up there. We also have the U-Space project you were mentioning, and we have many, many more. And we have invested quite some money altogether. 650 million is not nothing, and it's not only research, it is also deployment. There are 137, that's the right figure, solutions ready for deployment. And obviously in our Digital Sky program, we ensure the early engagement of the EU regulator, EASA, and the standards development organizations, EUROCAE. We need you to prepare for deployment and make sure the process delivers deployable solutions. We are not doing research for research, we are doing research for improving things. And this early engagement of standardization organizations and regulatory bodies is a key to accelerate time to market. And our members in the SESAR joint undertaking are key to enabling this approach, and I'm pleased to see so many of you here today. And even earlier in this process, we engage with all the stakeholders to develop and describe our vision for air traffic management and our ambition in the context of the wider European aviation and mobility policy. And we have a new updated European air traffic management master plan, as Anna was just referring to. So let me give you a flash talk view on the European Air Traffic Management Master Plan 2025. We want to make Europe the most efficient and environmentally friendly sky to fly in the world. This is our vision, and I might add, by 2050 at the very latest. This means that all flights will operate to maximize the aircraft capabilities and reducing aviation's overall climate impact, be it CO2, be it non-CO2. We want to reach the lowest environmental footprint possible for aviation. And this means also that air traffic management processes and services will optimize each flight trajectory, not 1 out of 1,000 or 1 of 200, each flight trajectory. And this optimization is systematic, continuous, and extremely precise. And the continuous optimization will be the new norm, thanks to a new service delivery model. Enrique, you said already many good words about it. And it relies on high connectivity in a secure manner. This will ensure optimized and efficient dual use of resources. And Enrique also has mentioned civil and military working together. This is one European airspace to be worked and managed together. In the future, in our vision, for certain phases of the flight, the system will be fully automated and will be able to handle both the nominal and the non-nominal situations. And this means also in this new environment, the role of the human has significantly evolved. There will be still humans, don't worry. There will be ETCOs, there will be engineers, but they will work differently. They will perform only the tasks that are too complex for automation to handle. And voice communication will no longer be the primary way of communicating. You see some other keywords on the slide, which I don't have time to develop. Of course, we're in a new security and defense context. Enrique, you spent good words about the integration of innovative air mobility. We have hopefully zero low-emission aircraft coming in as from 2035. We have to integrate them into our airspace. We need investments, and we need a supporting regulatory framework, and we want to work stronger and closer together, better connected with the other pillars of the Single European Sky. And then how to get there? We get there by doing 5 transformation levers which are supporting this trajectory optimization and the implementation of the new service delivery model. Trajectory optimization will be the subject of the next panel, so I will not go further into this. But let me also stress that the new service delivery model, on which, again, Enrique said very good words, requires a new way of working together. We will have to handle a lot of data volumes. We bring in automation. We will have dynamic airspace and the role of the human, as I just said. And Enrique, you mentioned also the support by the industry and the joint statement. It becomes so small now because so many organizations have joined, like the ITEC group, ENAIRE, but also the industry, INDRA, Leonardo, Thales, Frequentis, and so on and so forth. And this is really industry-driven, an idea to have a new model, a new service delivery model for air traffic management in Europe. Within the European Air Traffic Management Master Plan, for the first time, we have defined strategic deployment objectives. That is beyond research. We are now saying together, these are areas where we would like to do our deployment together in a strategic way. We want to have accelerated market uptake. There are early investors ready to take the risk, to push them, and we need the regulatory framework to help them. And I cannot give you all the 10, of course, but let me focus first on number 6 and number 8, because they are key for enabling the new service delivery model. The number 6, virtualization of operations, and EUROCAE, you are very active on this. Working group 122 on virtual centers is developing the standards material. Very good. And then the number 8 on the service-oriented delivery model, there the concept, Enrique, you described it very nicely, bringing ADM technologies and systems into the modern age. We need a safe, secure, scalable, agile core system, high levels of interoperability across service providers in Europe at an affordable cost. Somebody has to pay for all of this. So we really have to also in mind what kind of investments do we need for it. And we are working on this together in close collaboration with EASA, the SDM, the network manager, and it's very good to see the progress there. And we will soon have the service decomposition for a typical European air traffic control center defined. And of course, in this context, we will need standards. Standards will be a key component for this development to ensure it can be deployed on a wide scale across many ANSPs in Europe and with support of the industrial partners. And let me then zoom in on number 5, like this, because this is then TBO, and let me again say how important TBO is. It is also one of our strategic development priorities in the call, which is right now open, and I'm really looking very much forward to the next panel to dive deeper into this area. So this is deployment, but we are still doing research. We are also having development priorities for air traffic management as from this year. We're having 12 of them. On the left side, you see the exploratory research, early stage of the innovation pipeline. On the right side, you see the industrial research, which are further down in the innovation pipeline and coming to the end of research and then going towards deployment. These 12 priorities should allow us to address our issues we are having: capacity and scalability, how to manage the new security and defense context in Europe, how to integrate new entrants, innovative air mobility, zero low-emission aircraft, and so on and so forth. And they should also support a wider and faster deployment, securing the required investments, getting the right regulatory framework, and having the connections with the other pillars. Flash talk. So I'm coming already to the end of my talk with good news. We have a big call open now for proposals until 16th of September. And for us, it is really money. 254 million euros EU taxpayers' money. If I count in the in-kind contributions from the beneficiaries, we will reach more than 300 million of investment under this call, which really should push air traffic management in Europe to a new horizon. We have to be innovative, we have to be bold, we have to be there, we have to be disruptive. So really putting good hopes on this call, and I know also from my talks with you that we are really, many of the partners here in the room are preparing good proposals, and we are looking very much forward to evaluating them, to selecting them, and then helping them to bring research ideas to the end. In this industrial research, let me highlight 2 topics out of many different ones. There is a topic on the next generation ADS platforms for en route and TMA, very important one with big money involved, and then also the transformation to TBO, which again will be for the next topic. So take a look. I'm pleased to see that. And let me then close by saying we are all together on an ambitious journey to deliver the future technology and operations we need in air traffic management in Europe. And each of us is playing its part. I know I can count on the support and the collaboration with EUROCAE, and now I do my standard phrase, to make Europe the most efficient and environmentally friendly sky to fly in the world by 2050. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Andreas. And indeed, yes, you can count on the support of EUROCAE. And I'm very pleased, actually, as part of that support, that this year, for the first time, we have mapped our technical work program to the SDOs of the new master plan, which were adopted basically at the same time, both in December last year. And I think this is a very important achievement to show this alignment and to show this entire innovation pipeline approach that we're all preaching so much and that we're all benefiting from. So before we go into the next panel, which is lining up already, just a short message from our sponsor, INDRA, please.
We're proud to be global leaders in air traffic management and one of the drivers towards industry digitalization. We are transforming the skies with cutting-edge technology to achieve a more efficient, safer, and greener aviation. Our technology covers all the segments of the ATM, responds to the challenges of the industry, and is part of the journey for more than 85% of passengers at some point during their flight, with more than 11,000 implementations in more than 90% of countries in the world. We have become the strategic partner for large air navigation providers and the technological ally to transform air infrastructure around the world. We define the future strategy of the sector, playing a key role in the most innovative and advanced programs and projects in our industry. Our biggest goal is to continue transforming skies together, expanding borders, and shaping an exciting future for air traffic management.
Good morning, everybody. Trajectory-based operations, also known as TBO, is that just one of our new buzzwords that we want to add to the already long list of acronyms in our EDs? Or is it indeed our new magic wand that we use to turn air traffic management into something effective? Is it something that we can use to increase the efficiency of our flights and to better utilize the capacity of our airspace? And if it's the latter, where are we and what do we still need to make it really effective? That is what we're going to look at in our first panel. And I'm really happy that we have somebody moderating this panel, Viktor Jagasits, who is not only working in many working groups at EUROCAE and ICAO, but who is also an active air traffic controller in the EUROCONTROL Masters UAC. So he knows from first-hand experience, how to utilize things like the EPP. So may I please ask Viktor to join us on stage and then introduce his panel. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the first panel of the trajectory-based operations of the EUROCAE Symposium. As Alex mentioned, thank you for the introduction, Alex. We have a panel set out to talk about TBO, challenges of TBO, and where we are today and where we're going in the future. I would like to ask our panelists to join the seatings, yes, please. And then after a short setting the scene, I'll ask them to introduce themselves, because that's the way we figure this out. Very good. So, as Alex mentioned before, I'm an operational air traffic controller at the EUROCONTROL Maastricht Upper Area Control Center for the past 20 years. Still 50 to 60% of my working time is spent in front of the radar scope and controlling traffic, talking to pilots, talking to other controllers. And since 2022, we have been fully operational with ATS B2 services, which is the first step towards TBO, as you probably know. If I can find the... I need to move the slides. because I have a slide prepared. Can I ask maybe the gentleman behind? Oh, yes, there we go. So Master QAC controls the air traffic, as you probably well know, above the Belgian, Dutch, German, Luxembourgish airspace 245+. We handle about 5,500 aircraft a day. And even though the ATSB2 deployment in 2016, 2017 started with only 100 aircraft through the SESAR trials, today we see more than 400 aircraft equipped with this groundbreaking technology. And today we already see about 175 of these aircraft connected to the Maastricht system, which is about 3.8% of the traffic, downlinking the famous ADS-C EPP, which essentially gives a peek to the controllers to the flight management system of the aircraft. Why is this important? Because without that, controllers can only guesstimate the aircraft performance, the intent, what's going to happen in the future. And this groundbreaking technology really gives us the edge to be able to optimize trajectories, to solve conflicts earlier, to have a better view on what the pilots are doing. It's not only a safety improvement, but it's also a huge enabler for better trajectories. Our controllers were trained in a way that we told them, look, this is how it will make your job easier. When I first faced ADS-C EPP throughout our validation training, I looked at it and was like, ooh, it's a lot more data that I'm going to have to deal with, and I already have a lot of data in front of me on the screen, so I don't know what to do with this. But we figured out a way to tell controllers, look, this is how you use this. This is not just a bunch of data that will be thrown on you, but if you do it this way, if you look at that little thing, it will help you work the traffic. And that's one of the keys that you have to tell controllers, because you have to sell this technology to the controllers, who will have to be the link between the industry and the TBO becoming a reality. So since the controllers have no obligations, it was very interesting for us to see that we already have quite a lot of benefits actually that we can measure. We combined the logs of our radar tracker, of our data link logs, of certain controller inputs, and we analyzed more than 50,000 flights between 2023 September and 2024 September. And we could see that on the same city pairs, when the same operators, so normally flying with the same cost index, are flying a B1 and a B2 aircraft, there are differences. There are noticeable differences. We have promoted this, and we kept on telling all the players in the industry that, look, this is already there. So this is not something that will come in 2040. ATSB2 is that you get an aircraft within a month, you start flying, you will get these benefits. And we were a bit wary in the beginning, but the airlines started to confirm, yes, actually, those are the same results we are getting through our own statistics. Yes, we are getting better routings. Yes, we are getting better climbs. Yes, we are getting better descents. So that's the first step for ATSB2 TBO, in our view. And as you know, there are many further steps. The road is very long and winding, but we have some challenges. We have very good players in the industry, and we have this nice panel to explore what are the current challenges and how's the road looking ahead. So I would like to ask my panelists to introduce themselves, and then we will get on with the discussion. And there's one more thing, sorry, that I forgot. On the right side of the screen, you see an application of the TBO, which means that a controller is using a lat-long coordinate uplink instead of vectoring traffic. So you just click on the screen, I want the aircraft to go there, click, and then you can see the very nice screen from the aircraft that was the courtesy of Air France. Then the pilots nicely sent it to us, showing that, yes, all they had to do is press load, and then the aircraft just beautifully avoided the other aircraft in the sky. And that is also the gate to automation in ATC, which will help us with the delays, with the lower staffing, with everything else that comes along. So welcome to the panelists, and please introduce themselves. Thank you.
Shall I start? Good morning, everybody. My name is Heiko Teper. I'm coming from the SESAR Deployment Manager. The SESAR Deployment Manager is the younger sister or younger brother of the SESAR Joint Undertaking. And our job is to coordinate the implementation of the CP1, the Common Project 1. And I'm the head of the Strategy, Technical and Execution Directorate.
Good morning, everyone. This is Javier López. I work for Boeing Research and Technology Europe. I'm a technical fellow. I joined Boeing back in 2005. I took several roles. So my expertise is in aircraft performance, flight operation, air traffic management, and also data analytics applied to aviation. I have been involved in multiple projects that are related with trajectory-based operation in some of the different collaborations that Boeing has had over the past years with the FAA, but also here in Europe through the SESAR program. So very happy to be here and to hear from the audience and for the rest of the panelists. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Jorge. I work for INDRA ATM. I joined INDRA 2.5 years ago, and I'm responsible for the ITEC and SESAR commercial activities.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Carol Huegel. I am president and CEO of RTCA. I have been in aviation for about 35 years, and I've spent that time serving flight operators, airports, ANSPs, and my expertise is really in air traffic management, so really pleased to be on this panel.
Thank you, everyone. First, I would like to ask Heiko from the SESAR Deployment Manager to give us an overview of the European road to TBO. Where are we today in Europe, and where are we going in Europe?
Yes, thank you, Viktor. I prepared a few slides to show you, but I think I can skip the first slide because you did such a good introduction. So I don't need to repeat everything again. So maybe we can already go directly to the second slide. And as I told you in my introduction, we as SESAR Deployment Manager, we are coordinating the implementation of the so-called Common Project 1. And I would like to explain that the Common Project 1 already contains two very important elements towards the road to TBO. The first one is the so-called FFI's flight plan. The second one is the ADAC, Extended Projected Profile, EPP. So if I talk about the first one, the FFI's flight plan, that's a new flight plan format that will succeed the current ICAO 2012 flight plan and will contain much more information about the trajectory data, like the aircraft takeoff mass and also the aircraft performance data, so that all the ANSPs have a much better picture about the trajectory that really the airspace user wants to follow. The CP1 mandates implementation of the FFI's flight plan until end of this year, 2025. But we can already see that there are a lot of complexities building up on both sides, the airborne side and also the ANSP side. And we already see, according to the roadmap that we delivered, the so-called FFI's implementation roadmap, that there will be some delays. But we think that we will have a widespread implementation of FFI's in Europe in the years 29-30. So the good message is that even there, we as Europe, we are the forerunner, because the sunset date of this ICAO Flight Plan 2012 was set to 2034. So we as European industry have a lot of possibilities and chances to really share lessons learned and best practices with the rest of the world. And I think that also puts us in a very good and advantaged position. The second big element I'd like to talk about is the ADAC EPP. Already Viktor touched upon that. So this is the idea to really downlink trajectories from the flight deck, from the flight management system to the ground, to the ATM systems. And there, those trajectories coming from the airborne side can be compared with the trajectories that the ANSPs have in their systems. And if there are any deviations, the deviations can be displayed as a warning to the controllers, and then they can work with that. And this implementation of ADAC EPP is mandated by the CP1 until the end of 2027. And we as SDM, we are working hard on that, and we already supported an application for European funding in the context of the so-called CEF Call 2024. And we prepared a multi-stakeholder project consisting out of 9 ANSPs and 14 airspace users who are engaged in that to implement this ADAC EPP and upgrade their systems accordingly. And we also support anyone who is not, let's say, applying for European funding and implementing without funding. We have set up a kind of platform that we call AF6 Coordination Plus platform, which had the first meeting in 2nd of April. And this is something that really everybody can participate, share lessons learned, share best practices, and also put problems or critical issues on the table. So we are really there to help you. Look us up on the internet, www.sesardeploymentmanager.eu. We are there to support you. Thank you.
Thank you, Heiko. So as we can see, it's a complex problem to solve to get to TBO. And we know that it's not only going to be a capacity increase that we're looking for, but an efficiency increase. There's going to be a safety increase that we're looking for. It's a very complex set of new parameters, which will mean that we will look at the same thing very differently. So ATC will look at safety and capacity, and airspace users will also look at capacity, but there is probably something else. So I would like to invite our colleagues from the industry, from Boeing and INDRA, and ask them to detail what are your customers think of TBO, what is TBO for your customers, what do they expect as benefits from TBO?
Yeah, so I will start first. So clearly, TBO represents a lot of benefit for the entire ATM system. You have mentioned a few of them, like increase of predictability, safety, capacity, and operational efficiency that has like twofold, like in terms of reduction of the environmental impact, that is very important for aviation these days, and on the other hand, a decrease in cost of the operation for the airlines. So focusing directly on airlines, the main benefit that airlines see on the implementation of TBO is clearly the increment of operational efficiency, right? That is one of the aspects that they pay a lot of attention, mainly reduction of fuel consumption, and also the opportunity to even increase the number of operations that maybe they are doing in certain airspace areas because there is that increment in capacity. There is an important aspect that is the investment that the end, the air ground, but also the ground side need to do to be able to accommodate to the new technologies that TBO is bringing to the game. So that means upgrades in the avionics, upgrades in the datacoms, also the access to new sources of information, that information wasn't available in the past. Also this necessity to share information that in previous concepts, or in the old times, let's say, airlines didn't really need to share that, but now through these mandates and through these new equipage that they need to have, that information will be available, right, for the entire ATM system. So all these aspects obviously will bring a lot of benefits, but also will require investment. So obviously, like the SESAR Deployment Manager and other initiatives can really relieve some of that cost, right, for airlines, because they are always working with very tight margins. So that kind of initiatives are very important, really, to increase the adoption of TBO and make them more appealing, right? Like to do that investment that need to do in their aircraft, right? So for the perspective of Boeing has been doing collaboration with multiple stakeholders, with airlines, ANSPs in different parts of the world. So TBO is definitely an important pillar for the air traffic management and operational efficiency strategy of Boeing. So Boeing will continue being fully committed with the deployment of TBO. And this is something that needs to happen globally, hopefully, right? So I think Europe is at the front of all this development. And obviously, we hope that other countries and other areas across the world will definitely follow that lead. So that's basically my part.
Thank you. Javier? Okay, sorry.
Thank you, Viktor. So TBO, coming back to your question, is probably one of the most important objectives and pillars for our customers as well. And I say this because TBO is actually one of the enablers, together with automation, for our customers to make use of the available capacity to make flights more efficient, and at the end to find the most optimal trajectory for all flights. Now, this is not an easy task. It's a very complex topic. And today we are here coming together in EUROCAE Symposium. This is a topic that you cannot solve with one standard. It's not that you have, okay, let's create a working group, let's define a standard, and voila, you have TBO. It's a very complex topic. In order to achieve this objective, you need to, as Javier mentioned before, provide and share new information that was not there a couple of years ago. We started the path with CP1, FFIs, R1, and making use and displaying the extended profile trajectory from the aircraft is one important step. But that's not all. If you look at the master plan, there are a number of things that we need to take into account when we come together to define a CP2 mandate. You have the ATSB2 services, which can ease and facilitate a lot the ATCOS task in terms of uploading clearances as well to the aircraft, so that the ATCOS can focus on making the best possible trajectory. You have the ATC TBO point, you have the network TBO, you also have to take into account, let's say, the network manager trajectory service roadmap. So it's a very complex topic. It has a lot of stakeholders to come to an optimal solution. And I always see this topic, I want to always remark the difference between the microscopic approach and the macroscopic approach. So the microscopic approach would be looking at a flight, one aircraft, one trajectory, and try to make it optimal. That's, if you allow me, easy. But in order to make the network for all flights to adhere as most as possible to the optimal trajectory is a very complex task, especially for our ANSPs, which have a partial view on what's outside of their boundaries. So we really need to focus on, and that's what we're doing now, supporting our customers, and ITEC is one of the ground ATN systems in Europe that has put TBO on their priorities for a long time. We're supporting our customers with the implementation of FFIs R1 to display also the extended profile trajectory. And if I had to pick, coming to the presentation from Andreas this morning, in order to make the European skies the most environmentally friendly to fly in the world, if I had to pick one SDO from the master plan, TBO would be one of them, together with the level of automation and others coming along with the digital transformation. TBO is such a huge enabler, but it's a very complex task. And I think it's important, and I'll try to close with this, to keep in mind that this has to be a coordinated effort. It is not something that we can do on our own as ground industry, or also it's not a task that one ANSP can solve. We really need to focus on coordinated deployment. This is something we have discussed in the industrialization forum of CP1. It is very important that all stakeholders have a shared roadmap and shared common deployment objectives, so that, as ground industry, you can display the down-the-only trajectory because it's available, and so on. And this applies to everything related to TBO, also for ATC coordination and interoperability. We need to follow a common approach, and I think that's what we need to focus on, and that's what we're doing.
So, thank you, Jorge. So it's very interesting to see indeed how different is the definition of TBO depending on who you ask. And of course, there's a different approach, even within Europe, and even more in the industry. And we know that normally we do things differently in Europe and in the US. In Europe, we like mandates, because that's the way how we make things happen. In the US, it's a different approach. So I would like to invite Carol for a couple of thoughts on what is the US view on this whole effort that we do, and later on also Heiko, if we learned anything from the CP1 so far. What do you think about TBO from your perspective?
I think I agree with everything that's been said. A couple of really key points in all of the opening remarks and the remarks that have been made here. We're continuing to hear some of the very same characterizations of TBO: complex, the need for interoperability, the need for alignment, the need for it to be global, and really essential are standards. So in terms of the US side, I'm not here to represent TBO in the US, but it is important to understand that it has been implemented in, I would just say, very limited areas. So a couple of years ago, it was implemented in Las Vegas. It was implemented in Denver. And that was really under the category of the multiplex, right? Airspace redesign. And a lot of benefits came out of that. But there were also challenges that had not been anticipated. Community. In the US, we like to say if one sees an aircraft, they hear it. So there was a lot of community engagement that was necessary on the part of the agency that perhaps had not been anticipated. All of the benefits that are anticipated relative to TBO, yes, they were realized. But also, I love the word investment because we can see where we are today and we know where we want to be, but there's a vast number of stakeholders with competing interests. While we have a shared goal, the way in which to get there is not necessarily aligned. But I think it's really important to not only talk about standards, how essential they are to TBO and other concepts. I think it's really important to understand how we get there. So RTCA is a convener, as are other standards organizations. We work very closely with EUROCAE, as you all know, and other standards organizations. But because of our mission, we have a very, very unique role. We are totally focused on safety. It is, in fact, our North Star. And it's also consensus-based, right? So that document or that report or other artifact that results is consensus-based, and consensus is not easy. It doesn't mean that everyone in the room agrees with every word that's in the document. It means that everyone worked really, really hard to say, yep, this is what's right for the industry. So in the limited implementations that we've seen to date, I think we have in fact seen the value of the standards. We've seen this potential for efficiencies. Everyone in this room, regardless of your logo, as I like to say, is focused on the traveling public, right? We are focused on safe and efficient air transportation, regardless of the airspace. And standards to date have, in fact, played an enormous role in all of that. Another characterization that I'd like to introduce briefly is competing priorities. Yes, in Europe there is more of a mandate than there is over in the US. But within organizations, priorities change, right? We see companies merge, we see companies split, and every action that's taken results in a priority impact. So I'd like to just use an example of the NOTAM system in the US. Well, over the last few years, you all may have noticed January has not been a good month for aviation in the US. I think we're going to skip it next year. So a few years ago, January, the NOTAM system failed, the notice to airmen. So obviously there's a lot of focus on that, and there should have been. But you have a fixed budget, right? So the investments that were planned maybe in one particular program then were diverted, right? So the FAA has launched that they are rolling out upgrades to the NOTAM system. Well, in that January, the day before, would anyone have envisioned we would have diverted tens of millions of dollars to this other system? So I share that because it is really important to recognize that while we have a path, we have some goals, we have some dates. We've already seen FFI slip. We don't even have a date for it on the other side of the pond. But regardless of where we go and the priorities, my view is that the standards organizations are absolutely essential to a safe implementation. We are all about efficiencies, but first and foremost, we have to be about safety. And the standards organizations, and I totally agree with Jorge's comment, it's not one special committee or working group, it's not one standard. This is a huge puzzle piece, and it's going to require a large number of different standards to get to the interoperability and the safe deployment of TBO. It's massive, absolutely massive. But I do agree that we can, in fact, get there, and it's going to take a lot of concerted effort to recognize how complex it is and how many different organizations can help enable successful implementation. Because we are really all about serving the traveling public.
Thank you, Carol. Before giving it to Heiko, if you allow me, I would like to highlight a couple of keywords that I spotted in your comments. Safety. Yes, first priority, especially for ATC, is safety. So we keep on talking about TBO, we'll keep on talking about the best flown profiles and the most efficient. Well, if everybody wants to fly a 370, is that going to be safe? Because that's the most efficient. So I want my TBO. There's only so much space at level 37 and 380, which are the most used levels currently. It's like 35% of the traffic flies at 37 and 380, interestingly. Airspace redesign. I think it's a keyword that's often overlooked. We have to redesign the airspace also around Europe. I'm not familiar with US airspace, but we already see that if we want to do actual TBO, so looking down all the way to the runway, we have to get rid of approach controllers having to vector traffic for sequencing. We have to get rid of manual lags where we create an artificial disconnection in the approach procedure because the approach controller will figure it out. We implemented new features in the revision B standard of ATS B2 that gives us runway occupancy times, tells us when the aircraft will leave, at what exit the aircraft will leave the runway, if the trajectory until that point is not discontinued somewhere because there's an artificial break in it. So it's very important to highlight these things and to think about these things as well. And consensus for the standards, it's great, but personally I see this as one of the obstacles of making the standards, how to put it, strict enough, because there has to be a consensus. There's always somebody in the industry who doesn't like something. And in the end, there's a lot left for local implementation and local interpretation in the standards, which drives against harmonization, because in the end it will be down to certain implementers to do certain things, which will not help us when we get to the implementation, and we will have 15 different kinds of implementation of the same thing. So thank you, Carol, for all those comments. I think those are very, very valid, and thank you for allowing me to pick up on those keywords. And Heiko, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, thank you, Viktor. Also some thoughts about lessons learned that I would like to share with you. I think the mandate of the Common Project 1 was really very helpful to trigger some motion and some movements. But it's not enough just to have a mandate. I think also it's very important to really have the involvement of the stakeholders. So they need to see the good thing. They need to understand that it's beneficial, that it really creates something, that it helps them to alleviate their, let's say, current and daily operations. And also they need to be involved. So there needs to be somebody, some kind of coordinator who comes up with a detailed roadmap, with a work plan, who really details what needs to be done by whom until when, and maybe also breaks that down into very tangible intermediate steps that needs to be achieved, and again involves the stakeholders, and also gives this impression and the feeling to the stakeholders that they are in a position also to influence things and really steer things. And as we did in the SDM, we are really people coming from the ground, so we are really coming from the different organizations. Myself, I'm from DFS, German ANSP, and I was last year still head of technical operations in Munich ACC. So at least I have some experience and I know what I'm talking about. So I think that's very important that you have the same level of understanding and you can really talk to the people. So I think that's important, the detailed roadmap, the detailed work plan, an organization who coordinates that. And if you think about the different, let's say, stakeholders that we have airspace users, we have the ANSPs, we have military, we have MET organizations, which are also often forgotten. So I think that's really very, very important. Another topic that helped us a lot, I think, was the European funding, so that there was a clear incentive for the European stakeholders to invest. That was also very helpful. And I think the other topic that was also stretched and stressed a lot now was the topic about clear standards and certifications. I think that's really very, very important. And As already said, I think the most important thing is that we implement something, but in a safe and an orderly manner, in an orderly way. Safety is paramount.
Indeed. Thank you. I would like to ask all the panelists right now about how do we make this TBO vision a reality? What should be the next steps, in your opinion, just very briefly? We can start from Carol and then come all the way back.
I think that we all need to recognize it is very complex and that you manage what you measure. And I think that if we take TBO and we dissect it into its many parts, the examples I mentioned out in Vegas and Denver, for example, they chose to look at two different distinct pieces of TBO. So perhaps a way forward is to first identify all of the stakeholders and allocate to each of the pieces, which stakeholders are most affected. Investment takes a long time. So another example of what's happening in the US, several of the flight operators, the commercial operators, are starting to finally use a piece of TBO that's called TOS, Trajectory Option Sets. And the idea, which is a grand idea, is that the flight operators can provide 3 preferred routes to air traffic. And the idea would be that air traffic would try and accommodate each of those routes in that order. And it may in fact be that none of them are ideal based on the congestion that particular day. So it's starting now, and it's being used at several of the major airports by several of the airlines. But several of them cannot participate. And why? Because of the flight planning system. A flight planning system is tens of millions of dollars of investment. So I think if we take TBO and dissect it into the parts and maybe prioritize, I think it's a really good starting point. It is massive, the concept, and the implementation is going to take time. But I think we need to stay focused on what we can do in the near term, what benefits those bring. Because to the points already made, each of the stakeholders needs to have a return on their investment. Maybe it wasn't said that way, but that's the way it works, right? So if they invest, they want to see what they get in return. So I think a starting point is understanding where we can get early wins and then really engaging those stakeholders. And I will, again, foot stomp that standards development organizations have vast numbers of members from all of the stakeholders who would, in fact, need to implement TBO. So I would just say, count us in for being part of that dialogue. And it is also going to require the SDOs, the standards development organizations, to work together. At RTCA, we're having this conversation relative to the new community of users, as I'd like to call them. But TBO is like that, right? It's a brand new concept. Yes, it's been around a while, but it has morphed as technologies have morphed. So I think we need to break it into its piece parts. And I will go out on a limb and say Anna and I are in lockstep that we are here to help enable.
So coming back to your first comment, I think that was really key. You cannot change what you cannot see, you cannot measure. So I think first of all, I think it would be beneficial to visualize or try to have a better idea on what is the gap that we can really close in terms of making better use of the available capacity and making trajectories optimal for, let's say, a network. And I think the SESAR call that came out this year for SESAR 3 offers a great opportunity in terms of industrial research. There's a huge number of items to be investigated in terms of R&D for TBO phase 3. There is a roadmap document that describes what can be done. So I think in terms of measuring and visualizing where we are and what is the gap that we can really close, I think it would be beneficial, and this offers a good opportunity to do R&D on that. On the short term first, I think as industry, we need to support our customers to fulfill the CP1 implementation for FFIs and EPP, support the SDM in the definition of the CP2 mandate, and last but not least, I think in terms of coordinated deployment, I think it would be beneficial to have a view on how the roadmap of all EUROCAE standards that are on the table right now in terms of enabling TBO match, or let's say align with the SJU master plan, the SESAR master plan, the SDM roadmap, the NM roadmap, so that we need to have an idea on what everyone needs to do for the next 10 to 15 years in order to have the benefits, because at the end, what we start today, as Carol indicated before, innovation takes time. So what we start today probably will have benefits first in 10 years. So that's why we need a clear view on what everyone needs to do in order to have that coordinated deployment, which at the end will bring the benefits.
Yeah, so I definitely want to echo what my colleagues have said. There are two elements, right? One element that is about the short-term deployment and implementation that could be done on TBO. So for that, we need to select and prioritize certain use cases around TBO that can make use of the current technology, right? Or the current standards that we have out there. Because some use cases, they can be covered with the current ground and airborne technology. However, I mean, we cannot forget about what is our final objective and our full deployment of TBO, that this is obviously something that will evolve, right, as certain technologies get more mature. And for that, it's very important to have like a very clear metrics to evaluate the benefit of TBO, right? Because if we have ground indicators, that will definitely give like false expectations to the users, to the airspace users, of what are the benefit of the investment that they are planning to do to upgrade their equipment or to acquire a new software, etc. There are two critical technologies right now that are part of the CP1, that is the EPP and FFIs. So, I mean, FFI's revision 1 is something that is already operational here in Europe, right? So definitely Europe, I do believe it can serve as a lab to show, let's say, the world about what are the benefits of an early implementation of TBO, what are the benefits that will bring to the airspace user. But I mean, we shouldn't forget that I mean, this EPP and FFI's revision 1, they have their application and certain limitations, and we shouldn't forget to continue doing investment in R&D to understand how all those standards can upgrade and evolve, and how we can supplement the information that is currently defined in EPP with additional information that could be quite valuable for the ground systems, like aircraft intent information. And additionally, like when we are moving from FFI revision 1 to FFI revision 2, how we need to upgrade all the ground systems and also the airborne systems to be able to do those negotiations on the trajectories when the aircraft are flying, no pre-flight like revision 1. So those like short-term low-hanging fruit that we could do with the current technology and continue developing the next generation of tools and services that will support TBO are definitely key elements that like both the industry but also the regulatory organizations, standardization organizations, and also like EASA, EUROCONTROL, the European Commission, they can definitely support those.
Heiko?
Yeah, okay, thank you. A lot of good things already said. So I think also one of the most important technical prerequisites that we need is that we need to create and have some bandwidth to exchange all the new messages and use TBO to the full extent. So we need a multi-link environment for data link. I think that's a very, very important and very essential step. Concerning the cooperation amongst all the stakeholders, I think we already learned a lot with SESAR now existing for 20 years, and I think that's something we can be proud of. So we have created a kind of environment that we should also maintain and continue with this kind of environment. But of course, as always, there are some room for improvements. One room for improvement could be that we need a continuous engagement and bridging the gap between the research and development and the deployment. So there also we need to be more working together with manufacturing industry and also with a very important partner, the military, which is also very dear to my heart. So those are topics that we can really work on. And I can tell you, I think that's hard work. So you really need to be willing to go the extra mile. And we as STM, we are willing to go the extra mile.
Great. Thank you. So as you can see, there's plenty more to be done on the front of arriving to TBO. And as we established before, the standardization organizations are a crucial player in this fight to get to the final goal. I would like to ask our industry partners from Boeing and INDRA, what do you need for your next steps from the SDOs?
Maybe I start. Yeah. So, I mean, I definitely think that these organizations have done a great job over the past decade, and Carol was putting some examples of how this standard has definitely made the aviation industry one of the safest industry in the world. So there are a couple of elements that I would like to have like more involvement of the standardization organization. One is about the definition of all the useful trajectory information that need to be part of the trajectory-based operation concept, right? So there are already some standards, right? We mentioned about ADC, PP. How will looks in the long term those standards of trajectory information coming from the airborne systems? Can we complement that information with additional information? Is enough for the ground systems with the current information? Should we add elements there? Because definitely that will help us to define our avionics roadmap and what needs to be put in our airplane systems. And another element is obviously the coordination between the ground and the airborne systems, right? So that's why those standards, they definitely pave the way of how both sides, they need to upgrade their systems. So we were talking about FFIs. That is one critical element for the coordination of the airline operating center and the ANSPs. So again, different use cases that could help this interoperability between air and ground systems. Are all of those use cases being supported by the current FFIs standards, or should we move, or should we start to investigate and add like additional elements to those standards? So that is where I want to see the standardization organizations to be more involved and help also the industry and drive that need, right? So the different stakeholders can get involved on that.
Thank you. Jorge?
So I think there are two aspects. The first one, I think, is what Javier mentioned, coordination. So when we come together for the CP2 and SDOs related to TBO, right now TBO is an area, let's say, if you look at the TBO roadmap, there are many things that can be done. But we are, let's say, in an early cycle of the, if we treat this as an innovation topic of the innovation cycle, so we're opening possibilities. So what information can be shared, what can you do with it, and so on. But at some point, I think we need to come together to try to start to close the loop, let's say, and to converge to a common coordinated deployment roadmap, as I mentioned before. The second thing that I think is important is collaboration. Heiko mentioned this before. SESAR offers a great framework to do that, and I still think we need to use it more in terms of how to implement TBO, being TBO one of the most complex topics where so many stakeholders need to come together with different priorities, right? Not everyone can fly the optimal trajectory, but we should share the goal to have the best optimal, the optimal use of the network, right? Even though if that means that not everyone is using the optimal trajectory all the time. So how to manage that and how to regulate this collaborative environment where sometimes I will get the chance to fly the optimal trajectory, other times I will not. I think we need to try to come together and define collaborative means to define this framework where the network is always optimal, meaning not everyone is flying their optimal trajectory all the time. So coordination and collaboration are, for me, the key aspects.
Thank you. Very quickly from Carol, what can be done from the SDO side, and how can the standardization organizations balance the request from the operators for harmonized deployment towards safety?
So that was great feedback about what you all need, so we will obviously get on that. But I would like to tag on to the idea of the collaboration and the data exchange. So I don't see that as an SDO role. In the US, there is something called CDM, Collaborative Decision Making. And many years ago, when I was working with EUROCONTROL on airport CDM, it really struck me how differently the composition of the two groups were. So while the names were the same, big error, right, using the same acronym to mean something different. But in the US, CDM is actually primarily the operators. It is not, in fact, the airports. The airports participate, but it is primarily the operators, and that includes business aviation, and then obviously the large commercial flight operators. So it started off many, many years ago, decades ago, and it started off with, I'm not sharing data with you. Why should I share data with you? And now it is a thriving organization whereby it is actually co-led by both the FAA and the airlines. So it's very structured. It's a governance structure, and it rotates, right? So that it's not always the same industry representative. There are guidelines. They are enforced. And it is incredibly effective. And so the day-to-day management of the national airspace system relies very much on an exchange of data that the airlines have signed a memorandum of agreement that they will exchange. Obviously, that will have to morph as we look toward things like TBO. But I don't think there's one forum, right, to enable all that's going to be needed in terms of the cooperation. So my view is that what was just described here, it's essential, and it's very difficult, starts very slow. And I would also encourage engagement with participants in the US who prioritize CDM. There is a lot to be learned there. It's very, very effective. And I'll just share that not only is it with the large operators, but those who have the regionals, right? So there's the main line and the regionals. And there's also an agreement that if, for example, a regional misses its slot, the main line makes the decision about what to do with the slot. So I share that trivial example because it's more than just data exchange. It really, truly is how they're operating day to day so that the airspace system, which is really, really complex, can operate most efficiently. So on that one, I'll say I would really capitalize on lessons learned. There are decades of lessons learned, which should help expedite what we're trying to do on this side.
Thank you. And in conclusion, so we can see that the road to TBO leads through harmonization. We really need to make sure that whatever we do is done globally harmonized. For that, we need the standardization organization, so we need good standards. And we heard from the colleagues that in order to get good standards, we need involvement examples. So we need the whole industry to take part in the standardization groups as much as possible, which I honestly, at least from the data link part, don't see too much, unfortunately. So we need more pilots, we need more air traffic controllers who can bring the live scenarios to be able to extend and to perfect these standards to the extent that there will be possible to be used for TBO. So the only way ahead is through involvement, and we know that we all have a day job and it's normally coming on top of it. But if we want to change the world, then this is the first step to get involved. And I would like to thank EUROCAE and RTCA for their awesome work of creating these standards, for giving us a more efficient and safer future in aviation.
Viktor, can I just pick up on what you just said about the operational expertise? We are very aware of the importance of the operational expertise. So over the last year and a half, we actually changed our processes so that we are holding our chairs accountable for involvement of the operators. So as much as we all love and adore our engineers, because we do, they're actually not flying the silver tube. So we had some feedback from our members that we needed more involvement from the operators. So we now have a checkpoint with our chairs, co-chairs, whereby we ask at a certain point in the process that they say, yep, I did in fact reach out, and here was the response. And we're getting even more focused on that. As you might imagine, the mid-air has prompted an awful lot of discussion, right? Including technologies that exist but are not mandated. And when we talk about that, we have very different schools of thought on some of these technologies. They're all operators, but they're not the same operators with the same priorities or the same level of resource. So I really do want to share that we did make a change because we felt like we were going too far in one direction, and we've had some really great response to the change.
Great. Thank you, Carol. And my apologies to the audience that we probably don't have time for questions, but feel free to find us. We will be around. And thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much for what was a very engaging discussion. I think this really showed the complexity of the subject. There's not one standard that will cure it all and that will make it all possible. But I think this conclusion statement that you just mentioned is really important. And I can only invite you, make it your own. Come to the working groups, and yes, it's what the SDOs can do for you, but in the end, it's really what you need the SDOs to do. So we're there to help, to step up. All the work we're doing is joined with RTCA, and I'm really happy about that, that we have this great collaboration going on. And I thank all of you for the great work that you're doing in the working groups. It couldn't be possible without you. With that, I would like to invite you all for the next very important agenda item. At least it's very important for me. It's been a very interesting morning, and we will now move to lunch, enjoy some Spanish specialties, enjoy the discussions. As Viktor said, we haven't had time for the audience questions that have come in through Slido, but I think some of the points were taken on during the panel discussion anyway. So feel free to find the panelists, continue the discussion, and enjoy lunch. See you back at 1:30 here.